A recent CRN survey reports 28% of organizations are already rolling out or reviewing AI PCs, but many still struggle with costs, data security, and AI accuracy. Joining us today is Eternal founder and CEO John Byron Hanby IV to share how Intel and Eternal are solving that with trusted, high-performance AI for businesses of all sizes. Glad to have you with me, John.
Yeah, absolutely, Kenna. Thank you very much for the invitation.
John, why does AI matter? And what real-world benefits are customers seeing? And can AI be adopted easily by smaller companies, or is it limited to the big enterprise?
Well, that's a big question. Why does AI matter? So, I think the exciting thing is I started the company about 7 years ago, and we've been doing AI since the very beginning of the company's founding. And so we spent a lot of time in the industry working with companies really of all sizes, from large-scale enterprises like Dell Technologies, Intel, many other semiconductor organizations, financial services. We also do quite a bit of work with those small and medium businesses, right? The 10-person employee organization that's got a local service provider, tax accounting, things like that, legal practices. We're seeing such an exciting amount of transformation across all industries and all businesses, regardless of size or industry vertical, to adopt AI technology. And it's becoming a massive accelerator in terms of that productivity. So I think that, there are a couple of different reasons why AI really matters for an organization. But the first one that immediately comes to mind is the ability to scale. When I started Eternal Technologies, the strategy was we did not want to be a 10,000 person organization. We actually wanted to keep the company as small as possible and rely on collaboration with our channel partners to bring our services to the market. And with that strategy, we saw that AI would eventually become a thing, right? The big ChatGPT moment of 2022, where that really changed the game in terms of, wow, this AI could actually help individual everyday users. And so, as we think about implementing AI into corporate practices, whether that's for social media marketing, proposal generation, legal contract analysis, I think businesses of all sizes are starting to see that you no longer need to have quite as a large breadth of resources available to get the work done, because you can start to rely on AI even more than ever before. We've seen legal firms that have adopted AI technologies, ours as well as others, that have been able to reduce the turnaround time for processing legal documents down to 1/20th of the time that it used to take before to review and provide feedback on a contract. And I think the coolest thing about that is these enterprises and small businesses and medium businesses alike are seeing the benefit of that time savings, that productivity increase, and being able to do enormously more with the same amount of resources as before. And so I think that the exciting thing about it, regardless of what you're using AI for, or what industry vertical you're operating in, the ability to scale up and enable the people that are on your team to really spend more time on the fun and creative work, right? I'll give you an example. We're working with one of the top 3 pharmaceutical companies in the US. They have over 1.8 million contracts. And there are a certain number of those contracts that have rebate terms in them, and they're missing the contracts. They're not able to find them simply because there are so many documents out there. And they'd actually have to have humans read through and try and find all of the contracts with those rebate terms. We're talking about like tens of hundreds of millions of dollars that are just being lost simply because there weren't enough human hours in the day to review those documents. Well, now with AI, we're actually able to come in with a solution where we can analyze all of those contracts and create a funnel to determine, like, here are the top 500 that your human lawyers should review to be able to claim those rebates. And that kind of scale factor is enormously powerful. So I think that beyond everything else and all of the cool things that you can do with AI, generating video clips, generating images, I use it a ton in our proposal writing. We actually have an RFP response tool that can respond to a proposal in less than 5 minutes end to end. Those are all really cool capabilities, but the beyond anything else, the best one is the fact that we're able to scale, our customers are able to scale, and pretty much any industry you're operating in can scale and do more with less.
So, John, obviously there's a world of possibilities with AI. Now, what industries are you seeing benefit from AI the most?
Literally everyone. So whether you're in financial services, manufacturing, pharmaceutical, federal, state, or local government, technology, startups, every industry vertical is benefiting from AI, sometimes in similar ways, sometimes in unique ways that are specialized to those industry verticals. We talked about the pharmaceutical legal contract analysis use case, but there are many others. One of the most common horizontal use cases that we're seeing that is applicable to every industry and every type of customer is around things like internal employee enablement. Everybody that has employees is going to have some kind of employee handbook, internal onboarding and training resources, things that are designed to make that employee able to get access to the support and the resources and the capabilities that they need to do their job. Well, oftentimes those documents are neglected, hard to find, and ultimately go out of date very frequently. But now with the introduction of things like AI, you're actually able to AI enable those documents where you can ingest them into a chat experience. And now instead of an employee having to go through hundreds or potentially thousands of corporate pages of HR employee documentation to find out, what's their vacation policy, or how do they submit for paid time off if their spouse has a child, for example. Right now, they can simply type in a question to the AI and say, how do I get this PTO submission, approved? And it'll give you the instructions step by step based on the documentation to get that response. So that would be one of the really cool horizontal use cases. The other one that we're seeing a lot of opportunity in is around things like sales enablement. So if you think about, you don't have a business if you don't sell something, right? So every organization needs to be able to present their products, their services, their capabilities to their customers. And oftentimes, especially if you're bringing on or growing your company and scaling with new employees, not everybody is necessarily well versed in everything that your organization has to offer. Or you're a large scale enterprise that has potentially hundreds or thousands of different product options. And, no employee could keep that all in their head with the level of detail that certain discerning customers may need. So you can actually enable those team members, those salespeople, those marketing people, those solutions consultants to use the AI to help answer those questions. So they can type in a query like, what is the, performance of the latest Intel core processor or something like that. And they can get instant access to that information to enable them to be able to say, to the customer, here's the answer that you were looking for. And you can scan across tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of different documents across the enterprise to get that valuable piece of information. And you can magnify that kind of capability with some of the cool technologies like what we're putting together around RFP response, where you can pair that AI that's able to answer any, common customer question with an automation engine where, you may have an RFP of say 100 or 200 questions that the customer wants you to answer. Imagine being able to upload that document, click a button, and have the AI draft a really thoughtful, highly accurate response to all 200 of those questions in literally just a couple of minutes. Format that into a beautiful proposal, and at the end of it, downloads it directly to your computer as a Word document. You can open it up and you proofread it, change a couple of things to make sure that everything's on point, submit it, and you're good to go. That process used to take literally weeks to months. So I think that those are some of the most exciting horizontal use cases that we're seeing applicable across every industry vertical.
Now, John, tell us about what you are seeing in the AI landscape. And as IT leaders look to scale AI adoption, what are the most pressing challenges around delivering fast, accurate, and secure insights?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think that, In 2024, I had the opportunity to meet with and present to over 550 of the largest companies across the world. And that included some small and medium businesses as well. And I think the most fascinating thing is, every year we like to do a year-end review of the insights, the feedback, everything that we had gathered in terms of all of those customer conversations. And we do some quarterly reviews as well. And throughout those explorations, one of the most fascinating things that we found was it didn't matter if you were a 5 or 10 person small business or you were a 100,000 employee enterprise. There were really three big challenges and pain points or hurdles that people were encountering when it comes to implementing, utilizing, and benefiting from this new exciting AI wave that's upon us. The first one is around cost and ROI. One of the biggest challenges that we see is AI can have a really big price tag if it's not implemented correctly. At a small scale, there are a lot of really cool technologies out there that you can subscribe to that are, anywhere from $20 to $40 per user per month, which if you're a small organization or a small team testing things out, that price doesn't make a huge impact unless you're a very cost conscious small business. But as you start to scale out to 1,000, 10,000, 100,000 employees, right, that $20 to $40 per user per month really starts to be a non-starter. It becomes something that is, not even within consideration. And, even at a smaller scale, if you're a medium-sized business or a small business, enabling 100 users with a $40 a month subscription, that would be a non-starter in a lot of cases as well. And so, these price tags associated with these new AI technologies, if the employees are not able to really utilize them to their full extent, they're not seeing the ROI associated with actually getting that much productivity benefit out of the tools. So that's the first big challenge is how does an organization make sure that, for the amount of money that they're spending on that AI investment, they're actually seeing a substantial return. The second challenge is around data sovereignty and control. This is amplified now in the AI days. We were kind of, as a collective humanity and civilization, sensitive to search history tracking, location tracking a couple of years ago, but that has now been amplified with this new wave of AI because a lot of the free AI tools that are out there will take your data and use it to train those AI models. And, if you're just searching something like, hey, write me a poem for my friend who's coming back from a vacation, not a big deal. But when you start thinking about, I'm going to be processing confidential health information, or I'm going to be processing a merger and acquisition contract, and I'm a big public company where if that information gets leaked, and people find out that we're actually considering acquiring this other business, that could have profound implications on my shareholders, our stock price, and a variety of other things. Or you're in a situation where you're in a financial services industry and you're processing personal financial information, right? That starts to matter where that data is going, who's using it, who has access to it, and is that data also going to be incorporated and trained into an AI model in the future? So there's a lot of sensitivity around the utilization of these AI tools. And one of the biggest barriers that we see in the space is, especially at the corporate and commercial space, whether you're a small business or a large enterprise, having policy, procedure, due diligence around making sure that if your data is leaving your facilities, that is being treated properly, that can add an enormous amount of burden, complexity, and additional resource drain to actually adopting one of these AIs. Because now it's not just like you can flick on the switch and say, yep, we're using AI today. Right? You have to go through 3, 6 months, 12 months of that due diligence and investigation before you can move. And the space is changing so quickly that suddenly becomes a very big limitation. So as a result, in a lot of cases, unfortunately, it's just easier to do nothing and wait. And from a competitive standpoint, the people who move faster, that maybe take more of those risks, may get ahead. And so that's a big business challenge that we're seeing. And then the third challenge is around AI hallucinations. On average, in the enterprise work that we're doing today, we see the AIs are hallucinating or making things up, inaccurate information in their responses at a rate of about 1 in every 5 customer questions. So, I could type in 5 different things, 20% of the time, it would get something wrong, it would make something up, because an organization's data is not very clean, right? There's a lot of old versions, variations of that content. You may have a version from 2018 that's floating around, a version from 2021, and your new version from 2025 of your employee handbook. And most enterprises and organizations, when they implement one of these AI solutions, they don't have a good handle on that document disaster. It's around the governance of that data, maintaining and updating that data, and actually ensuring that whatever is being fed into that AI is accurate, up to date. It has the right permissions and access controls, because not everybody should see all of the information for confidentiality purposes. And that creates a lot of drain on the organization, because there simply aren't enough hours in the day for humans to go in, review, update, and approve every single piece of content that has ever been created for the organization, and every new piece of content. It's like finding a needle in a sea of needles, right? The problem is, you've got so many different documents, they all look the same, and you're saying, I need you to update the product specification because we went from version 10 to version 11. And now you have tens of thousands of these documents that all have it in. Humans are prone to error and mistakes, and it's physically impossible to go in and correctly update every location, because if you miss one location, then there's a chance that your AI will pull that information with that incorrect change, and it will use that to formulate its answer. So, not to go in just yet to too much detail about what we're doing, but we really set out to solve those 3 big challenges: the cost and the ROI, the data sovereignty and control, and reducing the risk of AIs hallucinating, because we really found that those were the biggest challenges that every organization, whether you're a small business or a large enterprise, was facing when it comes to adopting AI.
Now, John, you had mentioned data quality, something that can make or break AI. Blockify was built to solve this, right?
That's right.
Can you walk us through how it improves data curation, structure, and retrieval to reduce hallucinations and boost LLM performance?
Yeah, absolutely. So, kind of going back for a second to this issue around the hallucinations, that updating maintenance of the data, and the fact that there simply aren't enough human hours in a workday or a work week or a work year to update all of the documents that may be utilized by the AI. We, a couple of years ago, almost 5 years ago now, set out to build a technology that would solve for that enterprise challenge around document lifecycle management, governance. And it turned out that it was perfectly optimized for this exciting wave of large language model use of enterprise and corporate data. So Blockify is a patented data ingestion system designed to optimize the quality and the accuracy and the governance of content that is used to power and inform the large language models. So essentially what that means is we can take your entire enterprise of data, your sales proposals, RFP responses, slide decks, white papers, knowledge base articles, customer FAQs, email responses, meetings and presentations to customers, and we can take all of that data, run it through the Blockify engine, and out the other side, we can actually create a beautiful set of structured data that is optimized for the large language model to understand and be able to process. And the cool thing about the Blockify system is it's designed to distill and optimize your data set And we're able to actually shrink down those data sets to about 2.5% of the original size. And by doing that, we can create a single source of truth where instead of having 1,000 different versions of your company mission statement floating around, or 1,000 different versions of your subject matter experts answering the same question over and over and over again, that you would have to maintain and update every single one of those for your AI to function properly, we're able to shrink those 1,000 versions down to a single version. And that becomes a lot more easy to maintain, to update, have governance, guardrails, and improve the overall quality of the data that's being used to inform the AI. And when we do that, we're actually able to improve the accuracy of that large language model using your own internal company data by 78 times. So that's a 7,800% improvement in AI accuracy on average. There isn't any other solution on the market that can do that. We're really excited about it because that's a massive jump in the ability to have that improved accuracy, quality, and trust. So, when I was teeing up some of the big challenges a couple minutes ago around, 1 in every 5 questions that somebody may ask an AI, it would hallucinate when using your company data. When we implement the Blockify process to that overall hallucination rate drops from 1 in 5 to like 1 in 1,000. So that's a massive change in the ability for that AI to get the information accurate and right when it's responding to a customer question.
Now, it's one thing to talk about architecture and it's another to see it. John, could you show us a quick demo of how Blockify and Airgap AI work together to get the right information fast?
Absolutely. Let's do it. Okay, Kenna, so I'm going to take you through Airgap AI and Blockify now and show you a little bit about how the technology works and what really makes this special and unique. So as we listen to those 3 big challenges that every customer that we've talked to has been experiencing, the cost and the ROI, data sovereignty and control, and reducing the risk of hallucinations, Airgap AI and Blockify were our answers to those big customer challenges. The really cool thing about Airgap AI is it is a chat large language model solution similar to alternatives out there like Microsoft Copilot or ChatGPT that everybody's kind of familiar with. These solutions and Airgap AI answer customer questions, can ideate, provide document processing capabilities. But the cool thing about Airgap AI is it happens 100% locally on an Intel AI PC. So your data never leaves the device. From a security standpoint, this is like the golden keys to the kingdom, right? Because everybody's worried about other third parties processing that data, hackers stealing their information. With Airgap AI, everything happens local and completely secured on that individual user's PC, and none of that data ever leaves the device. So that solves for the data sovereignty and control really well. On the cost and the ROI side, the cool thing about Airgap AI is it's actually sold as a one-time perpetual license. We are bringing back the golden days of software. You remember in like the 1990s when you could go to the store, you could buy a piece of software and truly own it? There were no subscription fees back then. There was no maintenance costs, right? It was just you buy it and you own it. Well, we are actually selling Airgap AI in that exact same way. So Airgap AI is sold as a one-time perpetual license. There's no recurring subscription fees. All of the updates are included at no additional cost. And I bet you can't guess how much it costs because it will blow your mind. It's actually sold for an MSRP of just $96 per device. So it's less than 1/10 of the cost of those cloud subscriptions, which is a total game changer for the industry. And so very familiar, right? If you've ever used any of those online chat solutions in the past, you can use Airgap AI, and it's an installable Windows application designed for that Intel AI PC. So let's go ahead and jump into the technology and actually show you some of the cool capabilities and features. So when you first log in or open up the Airgap AI application, you'll be greeted with this very familiar chat interface. The really cool thing about AirGap AI is we've actually designed it for business users, specifically non-technical business users. So you don't have to be, a coder. You don't have to know how to put in command line interactions. You can literally open this up just like you'd open up Word or Excel or any other business application, and it will work. So there's no technical skill required. And you can do everything you do with these online chat solutions completely local on the device. So for example, if we wanted to create a social media post and upload a white paper presentation or something like that, we could do that. So let's go ahead, and within AirGap AI, you'll notice we have these quick start buttons. These are designed where individual users, based on their job role, their persona, could get access to quick start AI prompts. So they don't have to be an expert in prompt engineering to be able to get benefit out of the tool. So we could click on this create social media post quick start workflow, and then let's go ahead and upload a document. We have this great case study that we did with Intel for the US military, and let's go ahead and select that here. And I'm going to pretend to be a novice, inexperienced AI user, and I'm going to type in a really low quality prompt. I'm just going to say make post. Now, this would typically be something that would confuse the AI, right? There wouldn't be enough context to really know what we're looking for. But because we're using this quick start workflow, it will actually be able to do a great job. And you'll notice this is a really long case study, right? This is like a 10-page document that's actually being processed by AirGap AI. And you can see how fast it's actually outputting that response. And the cool thing about the quick start workflow that we're showing here is we actually pre-prompted it to be a LinkedIn themed social media post. We wanted it to have a viral quality to it, and we wanted it to use lots of emojis, which you can see here. It's done quite a good job of that.
And you mentioned the military, so it was probably some type of information that was proprietary, and it's safe because you're using this technology.
Yeah, so the great thing about this is we're doing quite a bit of work with the federal government, as well as a lot of the defense contractors, where that information security is essential. So that air-gap nature really lends itself well. We actually originally designed this technology for the US military. So the idea was you could be on the top of a mountain on a mission. You have to go dark with your communications, or you're at the bottom of the ocean on a submarine, but you still needed access to AI. This would work just the same regardless of where you were. And it turned out that this same capability had an enormous amount of value to all of the commercial industries, whether that's financial services, healthcare, consulting, technology, manufacturing, energy, power, and utilities, right? You name it, every industry vertical has a need for a secure AI technology. But I think one of the cool things, right, what we've shown you so far, this is table stakes from an AI chat assistant, right? Basically, anywhere that you go, you can get a document that you upload, it can process it. Like, that's not new. The cool part about it is the fact that it's running local on that Intel AI PC. But there's more. So we're going to go back to the new chat section here, and we're going to start a new chat. And what I want to do is highlight the benefit that Blockify can bring to AirGap AI. So again, Blockify is all about taking your enterprise's valuable data, processing it, and optimizing it so that you can get immediate, high-quality answers to your customer questions. So we can actually enable one of those data sets by clicking on this dataset toggle button. You can choose from many different data sets that you've uploaded. You can have as many different data sets about as many different things as you want. There's no limit. And again, this is all stored and saved locally on the device. So there's no risk from a security standpoint of that information being compromised. And in this case, we've added a data set about AirGap AI. So we could ask it a question, like, for example, we could say, what is AirGap AI? And we'll go ahead and initiate that. And it's going to pull information from that optimized and trusted data set to give us an answer. And you can see it's filling that out here. Now, the cool thing about this, again, is the data quality and the optimizations that we've made through the Blockify solution can actually be seen by hovering over these blocks on the right-hand side of the screen. So that reveals the Blockified source information that we're using to inform the AI and deliver that high-quality response. And you can see in this case, it's pulled 5 specific pieces of information about AirGap AI that are being used to inform the large language model to give us this highly accurate answer. One of the biggest challenges in the space today is that when you are using your enterprise documents, you may have the same information repeated in multiple locations. And that information may vary from location to location. And in some cases, when you ask the AI a question, what the AI thinks is the right answer is different from the actual right answer. And that's how the AIs hallucinate. So by packaging up your information using Blockify and creating this beautiful, easy to follow, easy to read structure, right? This is easy for humans to read. It also happens to be very easy for the AIs to read and understand. And instead of sending it a massive, 100-page input of text or a bunch of random chunks of text using the old search methods, which is how it's done the legacy way today, you can package that information up using Blockify, create this really nice structure so that when the large language model reads through that and processes the information, it can understand exactly what you're saying. It can do it with that high degree of trust because you can actually validate with humans this much smaller data set and provide that level of review, governance, and oversight to ensure data quality.
Now that we've seen it in action, let's get into scale. How does the solution use Intel AI PCs and Intel Gaudi to process massive data? And what does that mean for enterprise rollout?
Absolutely. So I think one of the really cool things about our collaboration and our partnership with Intel is that we've truly built an end-to-end solution that can scale to any size organization's needs. So AirGap AI, it's an installable application, right? We referenced the $96 single license MSRP, which means that if you're a small business and you want secure AI, you can buy one license, install it on your computer through a standard EXE installer, and you're off to the races. You don't need massive data center compute, and you don't need to worry about sending your valuable information to a third party. However, as you start to scale up at the enterprise scale, right, and you start looking at being a 100-person or 1,000-person organization or a 100,000-person organization, there's a huge amount of compute that is required to service that many AI questions every single day. And so the cool thing about AirGap AI is for organizations that are adopting these new powerful AI PCs, you can actually distribute that workload onto the individual devices. So you don't need to maintain as many large-scale servers to answer those basic AI questions. And instead, you can maintain that large-scale server infrastructure for more of your corporate centralized processing use cases, for example, Blockify. So you can use Intel's Gaudi platform, which is the large data center GPU clusters, run Blockify on top of that to ingest and distill and optimize all of that enterprise data, package it up and shrink it down to that highly small form factor, and then push out that small data set to those local devices. So you get that end-to-end benefit from a scale perspective where you can get started really small with that individual PC. You can layer on a couple of additional PCs for each of your employees as you grow your company. And then when you get to that enterprise scale, you can tap into the server infrastructure that Intel provides to be able to blockify your data at massive scale, where we're talking about, for example, one single core on a Gaudi server. Each server can have up to 8 of those cores. One core can process 5 million pages of text per month. So you can literally process tens of millions, hundreds of millions of all of the valuable intellectual property that a large-scale organization would produce all the time consistently. And the benefit of doing that is all of that data now becomes optimized, highly accurate, and real-time updating so that that valuable question that was answered for the first time by one of your subject matter experts can be captured and tracked so that the next time that somebody asks it, you don't have to spend valuable employee time coming up with the same answer a dozen times over and over and over again. You can simply tap into that knowledge base that the AI and Blockify have created to get the answer so that you can focus on more important things.
Now, John, you mentioned that AirGap AI lets teams run these models locally on AI PCs. How does this unlock secure offline inferencing?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think that the cool thing about AirGap AI is that AirGap AI supports bring your own model, which means we can run pretty much any of the open source large language models completely local on that device. Now, there are a couple of benefits associated with running that AI locally, but the biggest one that you call out is that data security and control. Right, it goes back to the challenge that we talked about at the very beginning of the conversation around maintaining data sovereignty, right? Not sending that data out to a third party where it could be potentially compromised. So the nice thing about AirGap AI is that because all of that processing is happening local on the device, that data never leaves the system. So, for example, if you're processing health or medical records at a hospital or a healthcare facility, you can be certain that anything that you're doing to improve your patient experience with AI is not going to leak any of that sensitive information. And especially for smaller organizations where that IT burden is a big challenge of having somebody who's focused on maintaining the security of that infrastructure, it makes it a whole lot easier to know that you can use an AI and enable your teams without having to worry about where's that data going, what policies and procedures and controls do we need to have in place to ensure HIPAA compliance and other privacy rules. And it makes it overall a much more seamless process to adopt and utilize AI at any size organization.
Now, John, you shared a lot of great information and talked about all these possibilities. How can someone try AirGap AI and get started?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm excited to say that we have a really exciting and powerful promotion with Intel going on right now. We'll put up some information on the screen with the details so that people can check it out. But ultimately, what I would suggest is seeing is believing here. So if you can get access to a copy of AirGap AI, try it out, install it on your device, you'll immediately see the benefits of the technology and what it can bring to the organization at scale. So we are just so excited to be partnered with Intel, and this promotion that is running is amazing. So really encourage you guys to check it out. And Ken, it was great speaking with you. Thank you for the invitation.
And thank you, John, for joining me here today. I definitely learned a lot. And thank you at home for watching. For the Channel Company, I'm Kenna Johnson.